Hey guys, Board now back with you for my latest Star Trek Picard review. This is going to be episode 7 of season 1, and the episode is called Nepenthe. I've probably mispronounced that, but it's the name of the planet which Picard and Sergio visit, which holds a couple Picard old friend in William Riker and also Troy. They're together on this planet, and Picard hasn't seen them for years. They've got a daughter, played by the brilliant young talent which is Lulu Wilson, who people might know from horror-based stuff, really. She was in Annabelle Creation. She was also in The Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix miniseries a couple of years back. So, yeah, really exciting young talent, and she's great in this as the daughter. So I'll talk about that side of the plot first, because that's kind of the main stuff, the bulk of the episode. So Picard, because he hasn't been able to beam back up to his ship, they've been out of contact for some time. He decides to go along with Sergio to this safe place, which is this planet, the planet of the title, and that's where he reconnects with Riker and with Troy after all these years. And there's a nice little introduction to the Lulu Wilson character, because she comes like bundling through the woods. She's dressed up as like a warrior, and she calls herself like the warrior of the woods or something to that effect. And she's just full of energy and charm, and she's a real delightful like performer, very likable, got charisma to her. But she's one of those where I think because of her age, she's very like easy to cast as this natural, enthusiastic, wide-eyed sort of kid who's just living this liberalised sort of life. She's in touch with the arts, she's in touch with culture, and I think that's kind of what they're giving us here, is the fact that Riker and Troy have settled down to this very free, liberalised, hippie sort of existence on this planet, away from everything else. It's very much off the beaten track, in the woods, very communal type thing, but they've got their own space and everything. But yeah, it's a good Castra, her name is, the Lulu Wilson character. It's a fun little introduction to her, because she meets Picard and Sergio, and she's dressed, as I said, as this like warrior type gal, and she confesses later it's just a costume basically, but she's really enthusiastic, and she's the one who throughout the episode seems the most likely to get Sergio on board, to kind of convince her that actually Picard can be trusted, and that actually, you are the product of Data, you're his daughter, and your father did some great things. Because that becomes a big running theme in the episode. It's one of those episodes where I think in the last episode you had more going on plot-wise, but there was also kind of ups and downs in that. But there's something to be said for this episode, because it's just a lot of character beats, a lot of like world building and backstory. I think it's one that pays a lot of fan service to the next generation fans. I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with that. I watched some episodes growing up with my brother, but it's been a while. At some point I'm going to go back and watch like all the Star Trek series, if I can do, but it's sort of a mission of mine. But so yeah, I mean, I'm not quite up with all the references that we've had in Picard, but it definitely has the feel of that sort of episode where it's going to appeal to the diehard fans, and as something working on that level, it really delivers, I think. But yeah, I like the Lulu Wilson character. But as I said, throughout the episode, you get Troy, Riker, and the Castor character all trying to paint a picture for Sergio about her past, about her father's past. So we hear in this episode, for example, then Data created 11 different languages of his own. We also hear that he created this planet, this red planet, which came up in Serju's vision. And as I was saying in the last episode, it's just such a release to be done with the Narek Serju romance, the real thing that was dragging this series down. Because although Narek is still in the storyline, although Serju's still here, they're now separated, and Serju's moving forward to more interesting things. So that really benefits not only the character, but it benefits the actress, because I think she's a really capable actress. We see in this episode, and even the last episode, she's very, very confused. She's very scared. She feels her existence has been one big lie, that she never was a real person. Of course, that's something they're playing with, because the idea is that Data, when he built her, it included, human parts mixed with the android parts. So it's meant to be a mix of the two. But yeah, I think we see this Castra trying to talk to Serju on her own level. Serju, even though she's an android, I think is meant to be this younger sort of character. And I think because Castra just has this wide-eyed view of the world, this enthusiasm, I think she can just talk to Serju on a different level from the others. But you get some delightful nostalgic moments with Riker and Picard. Just little character. I mean, probably my favourite part of their stuff is the fact that Riker, without Picard telling him, he recognises that she's Data's daughter, or at least related to Data, because he says, "Hey, I recognise that head tilt anywhere," which is just brilliant. And yeah, just stuff like the fact that without Picard really saying anything, he just figures, well, you're clearly on the run, and the Romulans are clearly after her, not you. How am I doing? So great stuff. I like the job Jonathan Frakes does. He still has that distinct sort of voice, very kind of dry, deadpan, but there's a swagger to him as well. So I really like the Picard and Riker scenes. Troy has some nice scenes as well. I like when she just gives it to Picard, actually. When Picard comes in, and there's sort of almost a sarcastic response from him from what Serju's saying, because she's saying this could be all just a big ruse. It could be all fake. And Picard is just, he's half sarcastic, because he sort of says, yeah, of course, this is all this wonderful planet, of course it's all part of our scheme against you. I can't remember the exact words, but it's something along that. And I think he sees it as a strategy to kind of reason with her and make her see, yeah, we're actually on your side. But it doesn't work. And then when Serju has left, Troy really gives it to Picard. She says, well, she's confused. Just put yourself in her shoes. Everything she's been through, she has every right to be mad with you. And this is just, I think it's one of those scenes which you kind of have to have, and it's one of these Picard needs a wake-up call type scenes, because she says what we need is the old Picard. We need the patient Picard. You have to be sensitive to what this girl has gone through, this person. So it's sort of a wake-up call, and then they have a nice dinner table scene where they sort of just listen to her, and she opens up, and they, even though she's not like completely on board with Picard. She sort of feels that this is now her destiny, and that becomes the mission. And they have to go off to the Red Planet. But it's now a race because obviously the Romulans are on their way there too, because they want to wipe out any existence, like any future generations. So the mission is set in focus, and there's actually a nice bit with Castra, because it turns out she's so into this stuff. She's so into like, yeah, just like the technology and like just the contact with pilots. So they arrange for like another pilot to take them there, and it's actually like Castra who makes the contact. She's just using her phone under the table. So, and then she surprises everyone. Yeah, I've got you sorted. So that's a nice little scene. But yeah, it's a shame I don't think we'll be seeing Lulu Wilson, her character, anymore. It seems like this may be a one and done. It was fun seeing Riker and Troy back and their interactions with Picard. Who knows? We might visit them again at another point. There's going to be 3 seasons of this that they've planned that out. So I guess there's obviously still time, but we'll see. It was nice seeing Lulu Wilson in this episode. So a lot of great character beats, a lot of good nostalgia, and they did the most important thing is they did a good job of selling the tension and the distrust with Sandru, just how paranoid. And this is what I mean. I think away from like the melodramatic forced drama of the Nyrick plot, the actress can actually express herself a bit more. She's actually been given something a bit more meaty to do, and yeah, she's doing it very well, I think. So I like pretty much all the stuff with them on that planet. So I'll jump around, a couple more like things to discuss. Again, a lot of jumping around. So at the episode actually opens with a flashback for Jurati, and this is the reveal of why she killed Maddox. And it's because in the past, at a time when Picard had started contacting Jurati, she then has she's being tracked basically by Commodore O of Starfleet, who comes to visit her, says we've been monitoring your conversations with Picard. And then obviously Jurati is like, well, oh, you've been tracking me, what's up with that? But then they talk about the fact that Commodore O knows what they've been talking about the Borgs and everything else. And then she implants a memory onto Jurati that basically shows this supposed reality of the future if Borgs were allowed to like run the planet. Synthetic life was allowed to run the planet. And it obviously shocks Jurati. And you've got to figure this is just some sort of a trick, a scheme, whatever you want to say, so that they can control it, so they can manipulate Jurati into doing their bidding for them. So this shows that they initiated her joining up with Picard and the crew, because they say, or O says, I'm gonna put a tracker on you so we can track your movements of the ship at all times. So that's basically, I mean, that lies behind her motivation to kill Maddox, and also the fact that now Narek is tracking the ship, and this plays into a plot in this episode, which I think is one of the weaker sides. Now, I really like Alison Pill in this role. I think she plays like the confliction of the character really well, and her guilty conscience just starts catching up with her, and the meltdown during this episode is just really, really good. I think she plays that very well. But the problem is with some of this plot is that Rios starts getting paranoid, and not paranoid because it turns out it was justified, but he starts suspecting that someone has put a tracker on them, because how can Narek keep tabs on them and follow them like this? And he actually suspects that then it's Raffi, because he feels, well, she's been acting weird. Where did she go initially? When, before, when she went off for a while, and she has been acting edgy because of what happened with her son, and she's been getting sort of drunk a lot and stuff. So I guess you can see the suspicion, but it's still a bit out of left field, and she does have this history. Now, the other side of this is that obviously we saw Rios and Jurati get together in the last episode. So, not to be crude, but you kind of feel then he's maybe not thinking with his head. So, sorry, I had to go there. But yeah, the fact that he's into her, they're kind of got together. You sort of wonder if his feelings for her, his attraction at least, is getting in the way of his judgment, because it's a weird sort of beat, because he mentions his concerns to Jurati, and Jurati says it's not her, and it looks as though Jurati is about to confess to Rios. But what's weird about the moment is that Rios then actually says something like, "What, was it you, or it wasn't you, right?" And it's like, it's not a serious question. He just plays it off as just like, "Oh, come on, it's not you, is it?" And then there's like a pause, and you think, well, she's gonna confess, and then he runs off, because that, I can't remember actually. There's something happening in the background. He gets called away. But anyway, later on, she's just racked with guilt, that's Jurati, and she actually injects herself, and she ends up back in a coma. She was never in a coma. She ends up in a coma. She basically shuts herself down, and yeah, that's just her way of saying she can't deal with this. So it's just a little detail of, maybe Rios thinking, is this Raffi? Not that I can't see why he would suspect her. I just, it just didn't quite convince me overall. And maybe I think that kind of justifies the plot with him and Jurati, them sleeping together, because I think that was set up mostly so that he wouldn't suspect her as the one who put the tracker on them. In which case it feels a bit throwaway. It feels a bit of just this one little moment just to justify this later. It's a little weak, maybe. It would maybe be a bit more engaging if they could actually have a bit more of a proper relationship, rather than this just random scene to set up this thing later. Who knows? I mean, it might be more, but obviously we're getting to the crunch now where he's probably going to end up finding out about that it was her. So that's quite a big dramatic moment, her going into the coma. So now back on the Borg cube, because of course Enron and who have stayed behind, they're sort of there to like put up a front against the soldiers, the operatives. And along comes evil sister again, the Narek's evil sister Rizzo, who I've actually quite enjoyed as a character, I have to say. And what I like about this scene is that we do get into a bit more of like the lore of this particular ship and the universe, because she turns up the heat on Who, and tries to get information out of him about what's going on, where's Saju, and and he's just very like loyal to Picard and doesn't give away anything. But then she kills a bunch of like Hugh's like friends, a bunch of the Borg characters in front of him to really try and force his arm. And obviously he's devastated, but he still doesn't give it up. And then there's this line about, well, I can't. If I could kill you, I would, but I can't because of that damn treaty. So there's a treaty in place here because he's a member of Starfleet. He's like official, so she legally can't do it, so to speak. And I quite like that. It's going quite further into like the whole lore of the universe and what have you, and into the politics. It's this kind of this touch where, okay, it's totally hypocritical to say, yeah, it goes again into like the subtext to do with immigration and immigrants and how it's all right to treat them like that because they're not official, that they're seen as like lower sort of thing. But yeah. Anyway, but then it sort of gets reversed in like a couple of scenes later. Not reversed, but what happens is then Who and Enor, I think you say his name, then is trying to like shut like the experiment down, trying to shut the cube down. So that's how she gets her loophole, because she's like, well, yeah, you've just broken the law, so the treaty doesn't stand anymore. So I can now kill you, and it's this standoff. It's quite well done. Enron, who is so far been quite a boring character, he at least gets to do some cool martial arts shit. And Who is sacrificed. He gets killed, which is maybe a bit of a shame because his character was quite promising, I thought. But obviously you need sacrifices. He gets killed, and then Enron is, well, Who tells Enron how to do it, basically, so he continues along because he's fighting back, and obviously Who ends up getting killed, but then Enron fires like whatever, a knife at her, and Rizzo escapes. So, but Enron continues on. He's still on board. So there you have it. You've got to think at some point Enron will be reunited with the whole crew, I should say. But yeah, strong episode. I think it was really carried by the stuff going on the planet with Picard and Saju. So I really like all that stuff, and I'm certainly intrigued in the whole plot with Jurati. I think Alison Pill does a great job in that role. One or two like moments which I'm not so keen on, but generally I think this is one of the strongest episodes, certainly in the last few, I think. So yeah, generally things are kicking along quite nicely. There are weak points, but overall I think they've done a good job with this show so far. So there you have it. That's episode 7. If you've seen episode 7, which I'm assuming maybe you have if you're watching this, then please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You can like and subscribe. Keep up to date. You can ding the bell on YouTube to create notifications when I post a new video. And I'm pretty busy at the moment with TV reviews. I finished The Outsider just the other day. So my review of the finale of that is on this channel now. I'm also doing Noughts and Crosses at the moment, the new BBC series, so I should be back with the next review of that coming soon. But yeah, keep watching new TV and keep checking out the channel. Thanks very much. See you guys later.